Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, and I'm going to give you 3 random thoughts, seemingly not connected at all, that are all insanely connected and correlated to each other. And this all came after a question that one of my clients asked me yesterday in my office, and they said, will there ever be a point in any of our lives where we don't experience stress? And my answer to that is a simple no, but there's a very specific reason why. And before I get into the reason why, I want to share with you, like I said, 3 separate thoughts. So the first is I'm going to share 3 case studies with you. I'm going to talk about stress and how stress affects our bodies, and then what you can do specifically to get yourself out of a stressed out state. And so, number 1, we had a client we've been taking care of, having amazing results, by the way, had some knee issues like completely resolved now. And they've seen other chiropractors, and they were kind of wondering, like, how is it, like, what's so different, what's so special about this? And, I explained to them the same thing you've heard on this podcast. Not the point to talk about that, but what I did want to talk about is something interesting that happened, and they had some observations. So this client of ours got into a car accident, and it's standard procedure in any medical office. Like, if someone gets in a car accident, we need to do a re-exam with them. We need to check and make sure and see where they're at physically so that we don't miss any red flags if there were. There's a bunch of things that we do when someone gets in a big trauma like that. And so this person happened to have a car accident, and we're sitting chatting, and 2 things came up. They're like, 1, ever since I got in this accident, I realized that I've had really bad allergies just all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I'll share with you on this episode here in just a second why that's the case. The other thing that they noticed is they were like, since I'd been seeing you, I noticed that when I was squatting, my feet used to flare out, my toes used to point out when I would squat, and as I've been seeing you, they started to come back in and track more straight over my knees. So we don't want the feet to flare out. That's a sign that the hip flexors are too tight. It can have to do with the calves as well, but we'll just keep this hip flexors simple conversation. And so when we see these feet flare out, what this person's telling me is that I feel like since I got in this car accident, there's been more stress in my system. And we didn't see this person for a couple weeks because they just didn't have a ride due to their car being in this accident. And so here's what's so cool about it. We do these neurological tests, and we see that everything is switched. What's interesting about the neurological tests that we did is that when we look at the brain, we know that the left side of the brain is primarily the brain that turns on the immune system. And so if you could imagine, if the right side of the brain is weaker, your right side of your brain controls blood flow to the left side of your brain. And so if your right side of your brain is weaker, wouldn't it only make sense that the side of the brain that it turns on the immune system would actually become overactive, which would explain the allergies? And the same thing is true from a stress perspective. We know that a big stress like a car accident is going to release a ton of stress hormones into our system, and our body's going to keep dripping those stress hormones into the system. And one of the things that stress hormones do, they turn off the frontal cortex of the brain, and they put our body into flexion. And so when we see the toes go out, this is, again, another indicator that, hey, there's stress on in the system. The brain is in a fight or flight state. It's telling the body to go into flexion. And so what's interesting is, like, this person who had been getting amazing results with us, they get into a car accident, all of a sudden they kind of see themselves trickle back just a little bit. And the reality is this person's healthy. They could continue to go on with the allergies and suffer. Luckily, they're under our care, so we're going to process this stress and trauma. But it's so cool to see how we can see, like, in real time where someone was functioning at like 100% health, and they have this huge trauma, and then all of a sudden allergies start bothering them, and then they notice this thing with their physical bodies when they're working out. It's because of the way that stress hormones affect our brain, which is everything that we're working with inside our office. So that's case number 1, random thought number 1. Random thought number 2 is this. We had a woman who we're taking care of. She is older. She had a broken pelvis, and a wicked broken pelvis at that. Not just the iliac crest, but we're talking about ischial tuberosity. We're talking about pubic rami. We're talking about some craziness. So she has a broken pelvis. She's been to PT. Her dad was not happy with the results that she was getting, and so she decides to come in to see us. She thinks I'm crazy, by the way, in the beginning. She's like, this isn't working. I'm still in so much pain. I'm still in this walker. Literally yesterday, I'm adjusting, and I look up because someone walks in our door while I'm adjusting someone else, and I see this client of ours walk in, no walker, smile on her face, and she stares at me dead in the eyes, and she's like, what? And I couldn't help but laugh. Like, I didn't say anything to her. I just ignored her because I want to wait for her time to chat with her while I was focusing on this other client we were taking care of. And it's so funny that she's like, I don't know what happened. Like, literally, it's been less than 3 weeks and I'm out of this walker, and I thought I was going to have to be on it forever. I thought I wasn't going to be able to go up and down the stairs in my house. And like, there's all these cool things that happen as a result of the care that we get to provide. Now, here's what's interesting about the conversation. Same reason that the dude with the car accident started noticing things when he had this huge stress to his system is the same reason that this woman had all of this pain and discomfort that had probably been stuck in her system for years, and then this big trauma of the break is what actually caused more pain in her system to the point where her body was literally like expressing itself and she had to walk with a walker. She comes into our office because as we wake up the brain says, oh, we don't need to be in a fight or flight state. Let's relax those muscles. Let's start to fire more efficiently. And she goes back into rest and digest. So we bring her out of fight or flight, back into rest and digest. Pain goes away. She's walking, she's driving, she's doing all this stuff again. That's super cool. Example number 3, ADD thought number 3. Have a mama, she brings her kiddo in for her first adjustment. I'm not going to give you all the details of the kiddo because I want to keep it how we say I don't want anybody to get the idea about like who this person is, right? So younger babe, 1-year-old, and literally what we see is first night after first adjustment, kiddo starts sleeping well, and mom's like, noticeable difference in the way that this kiddo went to bed. Now, same thing, the rest and digest, keyword rest and digest, the sleep, resting, healing system of the nervous, or healing branch of the nervous system is the parasympathetic system. And so with one adjustment, mom could immediately notice that we have affected it. And so here's what's cool about what we get to do is I always tell people, and people have to agree with me on this, is that I am not the best doctor. I don't believe that there is any doctor out there who is the best doctor. I would go so far to say is that there's no doctor that can heal you, because what you are experiencing is not the problem. Like, if you have pain, or you have skin issues, or you have headaches, or you have digestive issues, or you have vertigo, or you have whatever the thing is that you want to possibly name, that is your body's normal protective response to an abnormal amount of stress. So let's talk about these 3 examples, seemingly completely unrelated, so I can put them in perspective for you. So the first one I talked about, 22-year-old kid gets in a car accident. He starts noticing all these weird things. In a stressed out state, we weaken one side of the brain and he starts to get allergies. In a stressed out state, stress hormones actually put our bodies into flexion, and he notices literally his muscles firing differently, and those toes start to flare out. Why? Because when the body has stress, the natural, normal response to a big stress like a car accident is to go into a protective state, is to go into this fight or flight state. Allergies, think about the idea of allergies, right? Like, the reason that someone would have allergies is because the body is saying, I don't want that in my system. Like, allergies are actually, in some ways, kind of weird. It's inconvenient, but it's kind of weird to think about the fact that it could possibly be a good thing because it's the body trying to protect itself. Now, just because the symptoms are there doesn't mean it's good, but the symptoms there is your body trying to protect itself. And if we can get your body back regulated out of a stressed out state, we can get your body healing at a deeper level. And this is where I always tell people, I'm not smarter than those processes of the histamine and the other things that are probably causing the inflammation and causing the allergies in the first place. I'm not smart enough to be able to tell his muscles to contract and contract differently. I just have some cool tricks that I have trained like obsessively over for the last 6 years to get the brain to wake up so that we can bring the brain back into a rest and digest, back into a healing state, back into a state where God intended us to be if there isn't a ton of stress. So again, normal response to an abnormal amount of stress. If you have symptoms, there is more. Same thing. This older woman that we're taking care of, out of her walker, why would she have pain? Pain gets us to stop doing something. Pain is literally saying, I need you to rest, I need you to take a break. I need you to change your mindset and thought process. I need you to stop. And so she had this pain because her brain was stuck in a stressed out state, and the pain is a good thing to keep her safe and protected, except for she didn't need to be safe and protected from anything. And so as soon as we wake up the brain goes, oh, we don't need to be stressed out anymore. Let's change the way the muscles fire, and we'll go back into rest and digest. And over the course of 3 weeks, we have trained her brain, so her brain finally says, we don't need to be in fight or flight anymore. Let's stay over here and rest and digest. And like that, she's walking without a walker. Like that, she's driving again when she didn't think she was going to ever drive ever again. And like very skeptical of what we do in our office. So anybody who says like, oh, chiropractic is a placebo, like I can assure you that we take care of people on a day in, day out basis who do not believe what it is that we do. But when they see the results, they can't deny it. Thirdly, kiddo, I think this one should make sense. Our stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, actually are designed to keep us awake and keep us on alert. So a kiddo who is stressed out, who is not sleeping well, their stress hormones are doing the exact job that they were designed to do. And when we bring the body back into a rest and digest state, the body will start to sleep again. Remember what I said, all three of these things, seemingly unrelated, are normal responses to abnormal amounts of stress. And when we remove the abnormal amount of stress, when we allow the body to deal with and process the stress differently, the only thing that is possible is more function. The only thing that is possible is for symptoms to go away. The only thing that is possible is for your body to express itself again at 100%, which is why I get so stoked on what we do, because it's not me. God already put it within you. God put both branches of your nervous system in place. One to keep you safe and protected, one to allow you to heal. If we get you out of safety and protection, because the reality is most of us already have safety and protection, except for we thumb on Instagram and we have EMFs and there's pollution in the air and we eat bad food and all the things that we do that are stresses keep our bodies stuck and trapped in the stressed out state. When we move joints to the spine, we can wake up the brain. When we wake up the brain will express itself at a higher level like God designed us to, free from the symptoms, which are also God's design to keep us safe and protected in times of too much stress. So my friends, I love you. I appreciate you. If you have stuff going on or know somebody who's suffering, I would love for you to just have them listen to this episode, share it up with somebody who needs to hear it. I know for a fact that this is how we change the world, and I will come at you again next week. Love you. Appreciate you. Peace.